Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering. Here we have Tyler on Ant versus Adam, 5-time Brennan on Blue-Red Delver. Best decks in the format. It is the biggest percentage of the metagame. Something that you can absolutely build your deck to target, and that is something that Ant can do, particularly post-sideboard with cards like Carpet of Flowers to take advantage of all of those islands that Blue-Red Delver is packing. Every land in the deck is a volcanic or steam vents or a fetch land to grab those at this point. Or, of course, wasteland. Just plenty of islands. Carpet of Flowers, often a dark ritual that you can just reuse every turn. Sometimes even better than that. Honestly, even if you're only getting 1 mana out of it, the card's not the worst. Acting as acceleration, but typical floor of being kind of like a soul ring. And Delver of Secrets, the first card committed to the board for Adam. The clock. And it looks like it's not going to flip. He's going to have the option of fetching. Delver, quite useful in that regard. Gives you a little bit of a peek at the top of the deck. If he flips or not, you still can respond before you go to your draw step. Card selection, Wasteland takes out the Volcanic Island. Delver chips in there for 1. Once this flips, it's going to be a 5 or 6 turn clock. We see a Chain Lightning in Adam's hand. Does cut the turn cycle down. Bolt as well kind of increases the total amount of turns. Actually, Thoughtseize does it as well. I'm going to put Tyler at 15 if it resolves, which we got to expect it will. Not the type of card you're typically going to be Force of Willing. And we see Brazen Borrower, double Force, and a Daze. So double counter no matter how Tyler does this. There'll be Force plus blue card. But he's actually taking Daze. Got the single counter. Another blue card in hand will be double counter. But he doesn't have that yet. Tyler hoping he can play through a single counter on this upcoming turn. 3 damage down to 9. And a Wishclaw Talisman. Wishclaw kind of lets you pay in installments, committing to the board. That Brazen Borrower is actually going to be able to bounce this back to hand, a significant tempo play. Petty Theft returning the Wishclaw. Oh, and a Wasteland takes out the Black Source. This is really brutal. This Brazen Borrower can come in end of turn. Gonna be it. Tyler has to go for it one way or another. Those last 2 cards in hand are Force plus Force. Got a Lion's Eye Diamond. Adam just has to pick his spot on what he's going to counter. Got Dark Ritual. He chooses this as the bottleneck. It's restricted access to black mana. And that is it. No more black mana available. The rest of Tyler's hand is neutralized, and we're on to the second game. Excellent use there. Of course, that could have gotten totally out of hand. That Dark Ritual resolved. Perhaps Tyler could have more rituals and additional business spells. Wishclaw Talismans, Infernal Tutors, all sorts of potential must-counter cards. And the Tendrils would be frustrating in this list as Tyler has access to the graveyard with Past in Flames. Not a line that you're looking to make, but it is one to remember. Sometimes you can. Tendrils are not lethal just to not die. But it is rarely anything but a stall tactic. Storm pretty much needs to win in one go. Past in Flames really fallen out of favor, but I think we might see post sideboard why that might be. Adam's aware that this is actually Ant. He will have Graveyard Hate. Cuts off Past in Flames. Sacrifices by playing the card. But a very powerful effect. Certainly won many tournaments with Past in Flames. Its flashback is often backbreaking. Sometimes you can just jam Past in Flames. They force a will it. You untap. You do it again. Blue-Red Delver, at this point, not really looking to give you that level of time to play with. They've got Dragon Rage Channeler, Delver of Secrets, Murktide, and some burn. So they can close things out pretty fast, particularly the Murktide. That turn 1 Dragon Rage Channeler, Bobble, Scrying, and Drawing. Catching up there. 2 cards. Most of you will be familiar with those, the Dark Ritual and Force of Will. If that is your first time learning about those cards, welcome to the channel. I'm curious how you found us. Legacy staples, Eternal Magic staples, defining cards, truly. So much value with that Surveil trigger. Have in sorcery, land, and artifact, so a 3/3. And be attacking. This land so strong. Keeps Days at its strongest. I do acknowledge that Blue-Red Delver makes better use of Days very often than Cephalid Breakfast, the list that I'm currently on. Also a Days Force of Will deck. Brainstorms and Ponders. The core difference being you're actually just winning the game instead of chipping away. But Wasteland does make Days just a bit stronger to punch through in, whereas Delver is trying to stop the opponent from winning while it inevitably gets there with creatures like Dragon Rage Channeler or Delver of Secrets. At this point, just need to hold on for 5 more turns, and wow! Force of Will on Thoughtseize, pitching Days. That is fairly shocking. I'm actually surprised that that Force of Will plus Days is worth more than that Thoughtseize and the 2 life that it represented. See how this plays out. Force pitching Days is his, at this point, potentially a 2-turn clock if there's Brainstorm in hand, and likely guarantee that Delver flips. Wishclaw Talisman. Days slows things down, so the 1 is paid. Also gets the Surveil, so Delver doesn't flip. Very often when watching Adam's lines in agreement, I am not on board here. Murktide's coming down. Now this is a situation where Adam just has to have it in hand. He has to have counter spells. If he doesn't, he is forcing Tyler to just go for it right now. Yes, the Wish Claw is already on board. You're likely dead, but you got to imagine he's got a counterspell. Force previously. Ritual. Storm 2. 3 black. Having a Veil of Summer. That is a bit surprising. The Veil resolves. Would have expected the Veil to be played in response to the counterspell in this situation. There are times where you don't want to do that. For example, if your opponent potentially has Flusterstorm, that can be an absolute train wreck. But here, with just, I believe, 2 cards in hand, it's got to be Force blue card. Yeah, just 2 mana left floating. Facing down lethal. The Wish Claw on the other side, also bad news. Worst case, that could get a lightning bolt. Oh, and that's over. Wow. Huh. And double Infernal plus LED. Yeah, that is not going to do. All right. I think there was some miscalculations there. I might have to rewatch it to see exactly what could have been done differently. But that is something that Blue-Red Delver brings to the table. Your opponent has to kind of win before you get there. You know, it's a kind of a simple sentiment, but it has that inevitability. If you just hang around long enough, you're going to get beaten to death by these very efficient creatures. And sometimes your opponent has to go for it. Sometimes they miscalculate. Sometimes they just don't get there. All right.